Good afternoon, traders and investors. It's Will here with another one. What a big day today. Bitcoin, pump, and the dump. More banking fears as the Fed refuses to bail out FRC any further. We also had earnings from Meta. They absolutely crushed it, up 10% after hours. And unfortunately, Tesla and Enphase dipping hard. So we got a lot to talk about today. So let's get into some charts. Now, I first wanted to go over the S&P 500 because we have what we call some time frame divergence here. So as you can see, we have lost the daily uptrend on the SPY. However, so this is the yellow line right here. However, on the weekly, we are still in a weekly uptrend. So this is what I mean by time frame divergence. We're in a weekly uptrend with weekly consolidation underway. However, we're in a daily downtrend. So what bulls want to see is bulls want to regain some of this level right here, set a higher low, and start moving up. That way we can continue the weekly time frame to the upside and reverse the daily time frame as well. However, if we do continue to break down, it's not so bad on the weekly time frame here. We still got a lot of space above this guy, right? So as I've been saying, we're looking for the moving averages here to kind of act as support, and that would coincide right around here, right in the 4,000 level on the SPY. So you really want to see bulls at least hold this level on the daily if we do get some further continuation to the downside. But as a whole, guys, all of the major indexes pretty much were down today, meaning all of the major subcomponents of SPY were down. Look at energy down, financials down, utilities, which is more defensive, right? Down. Healthcare as well, down. The only thing that was up today was QQQ. That was the only thing that was relatively up relative to the SO. We did have a red candle, but it is a positive close on QQQ. Most of that is due to Microsoft holding gains from yesterday, Amazon as well, and Google staying positive. So they pretty much held up the entire QQQs today on the NASDAQ. So that's pretty much what we were looking in for SPY. So it was pretty much broad market pain today. However, just a few names were able to hold up QQQ. However, SPY did finish red. Now, moving on to the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ still kind of caught in this range, guys, right? In this range. However, we did kind of lose our daily support level, right? We did lose the level. However, bears unable to follow through here. It remains to be seen if we go down to a time frame to lower 4 hour here, remains to be seen if this is just a breakout to the downside, retest and flush, which would bring us into some weekly further consolidation here. We're into about 4 weeks now of weekly consolidation, but I like this because bears are not coming into it too aggressively. Most of the dips have been bought, which gives us this really nice weekly bull flag. Very, very soft. That's what I love to see coming into a major support level is bears coming into it soft, not able to prove anything, which, can kind of tip the scales. It wouldn't surprise me here, guys, if we do consolidate a bit further and then bulls can potentially regain their control. They're set up really nice for it, but it remains to be seen if it can be done. Further levels to the downside on the NASDAQ, obviously, we're looking at about 12,500 on the futures here. On the Qs, that would look something like this, right? Around the 306, 305 area. That's the area that bulls really want to hold as support should this daily time frame break down. And like I said, on the weekly, guys, that doesn't look like anything special. Just brings us down into our moving averages right here, which would still look very healthy because our higher low is right down there, right? So still overall healthy, but as staying with the theme of the week, like I said, for the past 2 weeks, we are now cautiously optimistic. I'm a cautious bull, so not getting too greedy on the positions just yet. Let's take a look at our Russell. So our Russell, what I wanted to show you guys is we're now coming down into our range. We had another big push down today, but as you can see, guys, we have so much support down here. And on the ETF for the Russell, IWM, I'll keep bringing it up. My ideal target scenario for writing options isn't here. So tomorrow I will be looking, since we're now to the tail end of the week and we do have a lot of the big earnings out of the way, right? I will be looking now, since we don't have that many catalysts on the table anymore. The only big catalyst we have is Amazon tomorrow night, then Apple next Tuesday, I believe, right? I think Apple's next Tuesday. Thursday, sorry about that, guys. So next Thursday, so after the FOMC. And we have the Fed meeting on Wednesday. So not many more catalysts left for big volatility swings to the downside, unless we get some really bad macro news, which would surprise me at this point. Maybe some further banking headlines and whatnot. But IWM, I am looking into this sector, right here, especially if we do get some negative financial headlines. Financials represent about 25%, 20 or 25% of this entire small cap index here. So the regionals and the mid cap banks, right, are all in this. So I'm going to be looking for some trades in this area. But as of now, guys, we are in a daily confirmed downtrend. However, we're still stuck in a weekly range, right? Bulls really want to hold this level here about 167 because we don't want to confirm a weekly downtrend. If anything, if they could break it and then come back up, that would be a break without follow through, which would mean that our support is still good. So that's why I'm still targeting this area. I like it. Bears seem to be, running out of strength and catalysts. I mean, look at this massive move that Bears had, right? This is when you had all the uncertainty over the banking crisis. So now a lot of that uncertainty has been removed because the Fed said that they were going to be able to backstop a lot of different institutions to a certain degree. So now a lot of the uncertainty is off the table because we've had that discussion now for the past month. So now if we do pull back in this area, I'm looking for it to come back into it slightly more soft than an aggressive move like this. I know the only thing that would play against us, guys, are some major institutions running into some credit risk or depositor flight. So that's what I'm looking out for on the Russell. Now, looking in before we get into some big names, I do want to cover crypto here. So Bitcoin with the pump and dump. So I was looking for the bottoming of this chart on the daily time frame, right? You can see that we came back into this whole support area here, and bears were kind of struggling to make lower lows from this area. So when we look down the time frames there, what we wanted to see is we wanted to see the hourly trend reversal, right? Wanted to see the hourly trend reversal. They did it here. Now, if you didn't catch it here, this was definitely an hourly confirmation. It does suck that they didn't give us much pullback into this area, which I would have liked to see for a breakout retest trade. However, they did confirm the hourly trend reversal on our higher time frames. What does that look like, guys? Now, from this, I was saying that the most likely scenario would be a higher low. It's such a big move down, almost 10%, that you have to expect the most likely probability being a higher low, a lower high compared to this guy right here, right? So lower high has now been set. The bears aggressively dumped it into the end of the day. However, we were not able to break this range of support. This yellow line here is the bottom of the entire range that we've been fluctuating at now for about a better part of the last month, right? Bears unable to break this range, even with all the momentum to the downside, right? So as you can see on the hourly, we have lost the hourly time frame, but bulls are now fighting back. We're now fighting back a lot. If we put the Fibonacci on this move, what we can see is bulls have now hit the 618. So we're now fluctuating between the 618 and about the 0.382. So that's really, really good. Bulls were able to get a very solid bounce going, guys. What I mean by that is if we would have only bounced something like this and consolidated here, well, it doesn't give you much optimism for some further continuation of the upside, right? But if we come this high, we've created so much space now that the probable scenario could just be either the reversal of the hourly time frame now back to the bulls, or at least somewhat of a consolidating range. But now the scenario that we continue to flush is now a low probability scenario. So I like that. I like that the bulls put in that much work. Now we've maintained the levels. So it remains to be seen one time frame at a time, guys. We're still in a weekly uptrend. Okay. We have lost a bit of the daily movement. However, now we're just kind of holding within this range here, holding between the 31 and about the 27 twos here. So holding, it wouldn't surprise me if we continue to accumulate positions here, right? Except if we get some really negative news or some really negative market sentiment in the downside. Would not surprise me that we continue consolidation before we make our next big move. The next big move that we're targeting, obviously, to the upside will be further continuation here into the 35K range. To the downside, we do have levels here all the way down to about 25,000, which would be prior support. So that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. All the other coins kind of just really following Bitcoin on this. Ethereum as well, still in a nice weekly uptrend here. We did tag the 12 EMA today. Obviously, big supply zone created, which is why I say, guys, it would be very surprising if bulls can just push this to the upside, V-shaped recovery, right? When you see a big supply zone here, usually what that means is we will potentially have to consolidate, accumulate more and more long positions before we start moving further to the upside, if that is to be the true move. The next levels to look out for on Ethereum, 24 to 2500. That's this resistance range right here, right? 24 to 2500. And to the downside levels, we're looking down all the way to 17, about 16 and a half here on Ethereum. So one time frame at a time, guys. We need to see the bulls regain the lower time frames, right? Before we can look up to see what they're potentially going to do on the daily here. So moving into our individual names now, I do want to talk about FRC a tiny little bit. I was warning everybody yesterday. Let me take these drawings off here. These were just previous levels that we were targeting based off the options market here. So let me remove all these, clean this chart up a bit. Okay. All right. So as we can see, guys, bears in full control of this. A lot of institutional players coming out of this stock. I'm not going to talk about it too long. I mean, risk to reward here. If I'm doing a position on this, guys, if you believe that the bank is going to recover, if that's the narrative that you want to abide by, if I'm personally abiding by that narrative, that I'm expecting a move up based off of some positive news, positive release from the CEO, updates and whatnot, just keep in mind, the Fed said that they weren't giving them any more money. So we do have some potential upside back up here, all the way to about $10, anywhere through 15. However, this is in risk of FDIC receivership. If the FDIC decides that they want to take control of the assets of this bank because of loans outstanding, well, this stock will go to zero. Equity holders will not get anything back. The same thing happened with Silicon Valley Bank. They will get moved over to the pink sheets, but unfortunately, this ticker right here will undoubtedly go to zero if that happens. So if I'm going small on this, I'm going with an amount that I know that I can risk 100% of the capital that I'm putting in, because that's the risk. The risk this time is actually zero. So just keep that in mind, guys. It is pretty much a 1-to-1, maybe 2-to-1, right? So from 5 to 10 or 5 to 15 pretty much. So 2, 3-to-1 potentially, but the risk is zero. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you're going with a larger position size, just don't risk any capital that you're not willing to fully lose. Now, major names. Apple doing a decent job here. We're in daily consolidation mode. Our higher lows is right here. So as you can see, guys, even though the markets have been fairly negative, Apple is kind of standing ground pending that big earnings news next Thursday. Still in a very solid weekly uptrend. Nothing to say. There's a lot of room still towards the high 150s here to potentially set a weekly higher low here, right around the 12 EMA, around this support level right here, guys, right? So that's what I'm looking for if Apple is to drop. If it does drop, I'm expecting some big support to come in around this range here. That would put the daily time frame right around our lows here, right? This would come down here. What you'd want to see on the daily is potentially a break of this level with not much follow through, and then recapture and resume. So that's what you want to see on the lower time frames here. I'm not going to go down too low because it's stuck in a range here on the lower time frames. So what I'm really focused on is the weekly time frame on Apple and earnings. So remains to be seen what's going to happen. Levels to the upside to watch. If it does break long, we're looking anywhere between 170 and 175. To the downside, like I said, mid 150s to high 150s for support. So moving on to Microsoft with their beautiful earnings yesterday. As you guys can see, they held on to most of that. So we're now above our previous resistance of about 293, 294-ish range, right? We've smashed through this guy right here, which was the highest level previously back in August. And we've also smashed through these guys right here. So we've now confirmed a weekly trend to the upside continuation, right? So the weekly's looking good. The daily, however, has created a large gap here. So it wouldn't be surprising if we do get some negative macro next week with Powell, if potentially Apple doesn't do well, or the entire QQQs get pulled down for some reason, for Microsoft to potentially fill some of this gap. However, we have so much room now. So much room. The higher low is right here. We have tons of space to do it, right? As I said, weekly uptrend is confirmed. We're looking down here at about 275 for support before losing that weekly uptrend. So on the daily chart, it's the exact same level, right? Now the time frames line up. So Microsoft, if you're looking for further continuation, you have to target these guys right here. So that's anywhere between the 306 to 317 range-ish. And if you're looking for the downside, like I said, we're really looking at this guy at 275 for further continuations. As of now, bulls in absolute full control of this chart. Moving on to Meta. Meta did the same thing as Microsoft, right? Look at the after hours, right? So smashed through this entire level of resistance right here. This entire level of resistance is now gone. They've confirmed the resumption of the daily uptrend at this point. We've now also confirmed the resumption of the weekly uptrend at this point. Remains to be seen if bulls can hold on to their gains. We're still struggling here with this high 230s resistance, right? But after that, guys, watch out. Because after this guy, there's not much left, and I'll show you why. This entire area is a massive gap. That was the first time that Facebook really crapped the bed when they went down pretty much like almost 30% after this one earnings. Really, really bad early last year. So if we do start to move up in these higher 230s, there's not much resistance left, guys, before this gap. And, you know, gaps all need to fill. So Facebook, I don't know if it's going to do it soon or later, but if Facebook does continue its uptrend, does continue to grow as a company, it remains to argue that whether it be in a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, or a year, this gap will be filled. If we start breaking into this level, start looking high 230s, right? High 230s, those are the last areas. And then we start filling this massive gap right here. Bulls, as of now, in absolute full control. It will create a big gap on the charts similar to Microsoft. So if we are looking for some pullback, we're looking for some pullback into the higher end of this range here, around the 220s. But, you know, now so much space has been created. Our lows that we're looking for here, 207. Bulls do not want to lose the 207 to 209 area. And like I said, further continuation of the upside into the high 230s, 240s, and then the gap filled. So very congratulations to any bulls on Meta today. Amazon. Well, Amazon just doing a whole lot of nothing, right? Pending earnings tomorrow. So stuck in this range. So it remains to be seen, guys. Will we see a pop like Amazon and Microsoft did? So here's some history. Amazon had a similar pop to what Microsoft and Facebook just did. Popped above for earnings and then came down and filled the gap, right? For a long period of time, filled the gap and pushed lower. So if Amazon does good, it stands to argue that they will start to push the higher levels here, anywhere from 113 all the way to 120, which is going to be the next areas of resistance, right? 113 to 120 up here. However, if they do bad, expect them to be going back into my green box, which is the area that I like purchasing Amazon in. Expect them to come down here. Our higher lows are right down here around $97, right? So that is on the weekly time frame. Bulls want to hold this area right here above 97. We've got some good support levels there. We also have the short-term moving averages, the 12 and the 26 right under us. So I'm not, you know, it's not that I'm not nervous. It's just I know there's a lot of support down there, a lot of buying pressure. So remains to be seen, especially since Amazon hasn't been putting in the best margins as of late, still growing revenue. Remains to be seen if they can keep doing that with a consumer that has less purchasing power going into this year. Very, very curious to see how Amazon's going to report. If they do well, it'll contribute to bringing QQQ back up potentially, right? So QQQ being upheld by the major names here. But if it doesn't do well and drags down everything, QQQ will further consolidate, and that you guys will kind of be able to blame Amazon on that if that does happen. But so far, so good. Bulls still in control of the weekly time frame and the daily time frame as well. Everything relies on earnings as of tomorrow. Now, Tesla. All right, I want to cover Google a bit first. So Google, same thing, right? We're looking for our lows right here, $100, which is our higher low on the daily time frame. Bulls really want to hold this. Google did a good job of holding its own during earnings, so its major catalysts are out of the way. I mean, they did so-so. Right? Ad revenue wasn't the greatest. However, they are expanding. They are expanding the AI possibilities as well. So we have some growth in a few lines of their business, a few slowdowns in a couple other lines of their business. But as a whole, they're still doing very well. Don't forget, we're still down about 31% from all-time highs, right? So still some value to be had here if you like the stock. Now, my target areas that I like buying this stock is anywhere under $100, right down to the mid-90s. So if we do get some further consolidation in the NASDAQ due to some negative things happening, Amazon coming down, Apple coming down, Fed Powell being hawkish, right? I'm going to be looking for Google somewhere down in these areas right here. As you can see, our 200-day moving average is right here at 98. So big support there on the weekly time frame. And bulls still in control, consolidating here at the highs. Tesla. Now, as I was saying, we're now moving in to filling our gap. So like I was saying, either one of two things was going to happen. We were either going to fill this gap to the upside and then either push down, or we were going to fill this gap to the upside, consolidate like this. But if we didn't start filling the gap immediately, then the most likely scenario was that we were going to slowly trend down and potentially go back and fill this gap. Maybe bulls want to fill this gap before they fill this gap, right? So Amazon, very, very solid growth still, very solid margins, despite what everybody's tweeting and whatnot. These are solid, solid margins for the business that they are in. Extremely solid, extremely large growth potential for this company. But now we're getting closer to filling this gap all the way down to 145 than we are filling this gap. So it's very possible that what bulls want to see is something like this, fill this gap right here, right? This would allow us to set a monthly higher low. This is our low. If we set a monthly higher low anywhere near 145, it opens up the possibility that we might just do something like this, right? Or potentially something like this, consolidate, and then push higher towards the later end of the year. But, you know, it all depends on the macro environment, right? All depends on the macro environment and how much Tesla is able to deliver on their business model throughout the course of the year. But I'm looking for this monthly higher low because we've been in a monthly downtrend now ever since it started dropping from the all-time high. I want to see the monthly higher low. And then if we do come down here to the 140s, stop and give a nice push up and then retest something like this. You want to see, right? If you're a bull, you want to see the weekly time frame do something like this, which would allow you to potentially start a position here, set the stops below the low, and then ride it to the upside. That's the type of trader I am. I like the breakout retest trade, or I like the trend confirmation trade, right? So I'm looking for confirmation, not looking to buy the falling knife so much, although this area does offer a very, very juicy level, you know what I mean? But I want to see something like this. I want to see something like this and then confirm, right? Because then as soon as the bulls put in a very nice move to the upside like this, I can then wait for the retest, set my stops under the low, or if I'm writing options, it gives me a level to write off of, right? If you're trying to write options and you have no support in sight, who's going to support you, right? It's just going to keep coming down. So that's what I'm looking on for Tesla. I'm looking on for the gap fill here first, and then some consolidation, push up. I want to see this, and then I want to see it fill into this gap area here, okay? That's the one I'm looking out for Tesla. End phase. End phase, end phase, end phase, end phase. This has been their worst day in 3 years, pretty much. You would be hard-pressed to find a minus 30% day almost, since look, you look at the big candles, only 10%. You have to go all the way back, right? Even over here, 11, you have to go all the way back here to 2021 to find any days that are that negative, right? I think there's one day over here, don't want to spend, I found it earlier on the chart. Let me see here. Was it this one? Can't even find it, guys. So just to say, right? That's how hard it is to find another day. Look, 14% here, right? So that's how hard it is to find a negative 25% day on end phase. I cannot understand why they beat the stock down that much. If you can see, guys, on a quarterly basis, they slightly, they didn't grow revenue on a quarter over quarter basis, but compared to last year, it's absolutely huge, right? This company is growing at in excess of 30% a year. Their margins are absolutely ridiculous, right? Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic gross margins. And the only thing that brought this stock down is they missed on Q2 guidance. And I was reading more into it. And what analysts are expecting is they say, well, if they're lowering Q2 guidance, they may then lower Q3 and Q4 later in the year. And if the consumer slows down and the housing market slows down, consumers won't have enough pricing power to afford new solar panels, and their microinverter business may slow down as well from business to business. Okay, that's a lot of speculation, right? They're trying to price in the worst for the stock right away, as the markets do. So you can't be mad at it, guys. You just have to react and trade it. As you can see, I have a first line here. First line of defense is right here. Second line of defense, you have to go a lot lower. So anything in this whole area here is where you start to run into some big, big, big buying pressure, right? As you can see, whenever we've entered this zone, buyers tend to reject very aggressively. very, very aggressive rejections when we get into this zone here, the chopness here, right? Come down here, hard rejection. Again, hard rejection. So this is the area that I'm targeting now as an optimal area to be writing options into, because if we do fall down in that area, there's a major gap fill. And similar to Tesla, what I want to see seller exhaustion. Then I want to see a nice bull move up, retest something like this, and then start to move slightly to the upside. If I do see that, gives me more confidence to go a bit heavier because I have something to base it off of, a recent support level to base it off of at that point, which coincides with our longer term support level. So end phase, never good to catch a falling knife, but I'm waiting for seller exhaustion on this chart. I still love the company. It's still a company that I think is going to perform very, very well over the next 3, 4, 5 years as we migrate to more, energy efficient means of production, and especially of consumption as well. So I'm really looking out for this. I think it's a great play. However, got absolutely destroyed on earnings. Can't lie, absolutely destroyed. If you asked me yesterday if this was possible, I maybe would have put a 2-3% probability on it. But obviously I was wrong. So unfortunately, the levels have been reset. We've now lost any form of weekly uptrend that we had created. So now we have to wait. We have to wait for sellers to exhaust all the selling pressure. We have to wait for buyers to put in somewhat of a nice rally. And then either one thing's going to happen. It's either going to accumulate in an equilibrium like this, or we're going to do something like this and reset the entire daily time frame. Weekly time frame as well at this point, not looking very, very good, obviously, with that massive candle of downside. But like I said, guys, all you can do is wait for seller exhaustion, wait for the weekly push, and then reset the weekly time frame to the upside. On the monthly, still looking for the monthly higher low. Still looking for the monthly higher low, right? So gotta be patient, guys. Just wait for seller exhaustion. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover, guys, today. Tomorrow, Amazon earnings. Now, at least we can kind of breathe because a lot of major catalysts have been taken off the table. A lot of tech earnings have been reported. We've rent through the banking crisis again, right? Negative headlines over the past few days. And we've seen how indexes have reacted, right? Especially financials. Financials, as I was saying, I was looking for exactly this. I wanted to see a retest, right? We need to see the higher low on the weekly. Need to see a higher low on the weekly if we want to confirm then a weekly uptrend. So this is, the low is down here. The low is down here. So we're not technically in a confirmed weekly downtrend just yet. We want to confirm the trend reversal to the bulls here. So still a lot of work for the bulls to do, but we're working with a lot of space to work with, guys. So as long as this market remains healthy and we don't get hit with some black swan events or some really, really negative macro event, we are still cautiously bullish. The bulls are still in control of the major indexes on the higher time frames, and that's what we want to see. So guys, if you appreciated everything here, I hope you liked the video. I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you all, and I hope you guys did well in the trades. Peace.